I think we're onto something here. This is what we're chasing. If we can find a bit more of this, we're going to be really happy. Oh, g'day Rockhounds. Here we are on the next expedition. We're in the hunt for a special variety of quartz. What's so special about it, you might say? Well, this is a really beautiful pink rose quartz. Pretty unique for Australia. Another thing that makes it really unique and rare is its location. We're going to be taking off from our home base. I'm going to head 1200 k's north to the mine, to a place called Yinnetharra. Once we get to Yinnetharra, we're going to take an off-road track. I'm going to head bush. I'm going to get into the mine site. There's a couple big obstacles in our way. There's two major rivers. One is the Gascoyne River and the other is Turner River. They're going to be a bit of a problem for us. We're going to have to level the sand down and we're going to have to tow the truck through to get to the other side. So now I've got a basic plan. We're going to play a bit of it by ear. I'm going to run the crew through it so they have an idea of what's going on, and then we're going to hit the road and see how far we get. So we're going to hit some really hard corrugations on these tracks. They're going to be pretty vicious on the old truck, so I'm going to do one last check, make sure everything's nice and tight. That way there's nothing loose to start with that can potentially come off on the road and cause all sorts of problems we don't want. I'm going to make sure though I throw some extra tools in just in case. One important item I can't do without though, my swag. If we do have to pull up, I've got somewhere nice to sleep. So I'm going to jump in the truck now. We're going to start heading out of home base. I'm going to keep the crew nice and tight behind me while we head out of the hustle and bustle of the city. Once we get onto that open road, we can really start to see the beauty of the country, that big, amazing, vast landscape. It's something else. And I'll even get to create a bit of dust for the guys behind me. That should be fun for them. We're at the halfway point now. We've had a good run overnight. A few issues, but we fixed them along the way. At the moment, we're getting set to hit some corrugation, so we're going off-road, basically be dirt road for the next 600 k's. And it's bloody hot out here, and it's a good thing we got the van. That'll make it a little bit easier for when we get out to the mine. So this second half of the journey, it's going to get pretty rough. We're heading deeper and deeper into the remote outback. It's starting to get pretty dangerous on the road too. The corrugations are opening up, but I'm kicking up a lot of dust for the guys behind me. The crew really have to take a bit of care when they're navigating through. They just can't see the road. It starts getting a lot easier once we hit the cattle country. We have to go through a few gates and fences, but it's when the road turns into a dirt track that we can really have some fun and get into that mine. Well, that's been a hard couple days on the road. We managed to get to the Rose Quartz mine. We're all settled in now. I've left all the gear on the other side of the river, and Mick and I have come in just for a bit of a scouting mission. It's been a long time since I was here, and the creeks have washed out all the old tracks and all our old markers. So we did it old school. We didn't have any maps with us or anything like that, so we managed to come through the bush and get to site, and it's all flooding back now. So sun's pretty intense right now, so we're going to head back, get the gear, and see if we can't set up camp and get the machine over. So we've gone out and rented this great big 40-ton excavator, and that's great, you might think. The problem is we can't actually get it to the mine site. We're still 20 k's out. I'm going to put Mick in the excavator and get him to walk it out to the Rose Quartz. The other problem is we have a 45-degree day today, and that means that we're walking it for 20 minutes and then resting it for 20 minutes. It's the only way we can keep that oil cool enough and hopefully don't do any seals. We don't want any unforeseen problems and definitely don't want any repair bills for this thing. So we're set up at the Rose Quartz mine now. The sun's beating down on us. We've set the excavator up on the top of the hill. We haven't been here for a long time. It's actually been about 10 years since we've had a bit of a play on here. We've got an idea of where the Rose Quartz is starting to protrude out and where we'd like to work. But what we're going to do is we're going to put a tester trench in and just make sure that we're working the right area. So I'm going to set Mick up on the excavator now, and we're going to actually put a trench in. We're going to go about 2 to 3 meters deep. That'll give us an idea of where the Rose Quartz is actually starting to move. We've got lots of different things going on in the ground with some mica outcrops and some pegmatites running through. So depending on when we go down that 2 or 3 metres, we might have to go down a little bit deeper or a little bit wider, but we'll get a good idea of where the quartz is starting to move and where that better colour may be. And fingers crossed we might hit something special, and the ultimate would be some really nice cherry rose quartz. I'm really hopeful, so we'll get started now and see what we can find. So we've got a really big excavator. This is kind of a game changer for us. It's a lot bigger machine than we would normally use. Actually, it's really massive and really expensive, but the idea is to be able to do it a little bit more quickly, more efficiently. The quartz is quite soft, but the materials we're going to hit alongside it might make it a little bit harder for the excavator to dig. So by having a bigger machine, a little bit more weight and power, it should make it a little bit easier to actually pull that material out. Another thing we have on the excavator is a rock hammer. It's actually a rock breaker, and this hydraulic ram that we use, we can bust really big rocks open really quick. So we have to just drop the bucket off the machine every now and again, put the breaker on, and we can get through the hard rock. Then we can actually put the bucket back on and dig that waste material out of the way. And also the hammer just makes it a lot easier to break the materials down to the size we need to be able to load onto the truck.
So I've got one of the best jobs in the business right now, and it's called quality control. I'm making sure Mick stays on track. He doesn't go too far left, too far right, and we start to lose that colour. Every now and again I'm going to get him off the machine so he can see what I see. We can chat about it, and then that way he'll know exactly when I point to something what we're talking about.
Well, it's nearly a wrap on day one, and sun's just about down. Got the excavator still doing a last minute dig around. Mick's on there just getting the last few rocks done before we do run out of daylight. It wasn't looking too promising. We had a bit of an issue today with the excavator and not finding much stuff, and the ground was a little bit harder than we thought. But it progressed along pretty well, and we got onto some reasonable colour. We're excited about what we're seeing, but we're still looking for that payoff, and if we can have a really good day tomorrow, I think we might get some really good material and actually pay for all this hard effort.
So even though in the outback here we're constantly working in 40 degrees Celsius heat, it's always nice to, when we come back to camp, our number one priority is always to have a campfire. Even though it's hot, there's something about sitting around that fire. So the first thing we do, we get set up, we'll get the fire lit, we'll sit down, we'll have a drink, talk about the day.
I lost the bet. Camp cook because I lost the bet. So Martin does the breakfast and lunch and I do the dinners. I feel like he's got the better end of the deal because no one wants to do anything at the end of the day, so. But you know, we get it done. So on a long trip, we've got to plan our food. So sometimes stuff will go off early, so we've got to eat that. Sometimes we have a steak and the veggies, we'll get that out of the way. And then some nights we live on sausages for 4 nights too, haven't we, Martin? We go sausages, you know? And then later on the trip, as we're getting down through the food, we end up having sui min, even down to the baked beans. Well, to be honest, I don't really like to cook at all, but like I said, I lost the bet.
That's great.
So one of the best parts of the day is the morning out here in the outback. This is where we'll get fueled up for the day, have some breakfast, but we'll get that billy on first up. That's the number one priority. Boil the water, have our first cup of coffee. We'll generally have a sit down, just relax, take in a sunrise, and we'll just chat about the day to come.
So now we're going to head 20 k's back into the Rose Quartz mine. Mick and I are just going to be taking it all in, checking out some of the local wildlife. Although today it's so hot, there's not much around but a few cattle sitting at the waterhole. Everything else is in the shade. It is a great opportunity though for us to discuss what happened yesterday and our plan of attack for today. Because it is going to be so hot, we want to get Mick on the excavator as soon as possible. We want to get him up and running and get as much work done in the early hours. That way it'll be less tolling for us by the end of the day. So let's talk a little bit about the quartz we're chasing. There's a couple of varieties of quartz out there. You have the crystalline and then you have a massive form. Actually, the quartz we're working here is a massive form. It's the result of a quartz blowout that's been pushed to the surface. We're in between a couple zones of mica, schist and pegmatites. And this quartz is clear at the top. As we're sort of getting down through the surface and peeling that quartz away, we're getting these hues, these pinks come out. Quartz is basically everywhere, but what we're chasing is that pink colour. And generally, because of the higher concentration of titanium, iron and a few other minerals, you'll get a deeper colour. So we're going to sort of work this face out a little bit. We're going to start to pull a little bit more material off, get some larger blocks, do a little bit of breaking and see if we can get that colour to pop out.
So these big old machines are really dangerous, but Mick's a first-class operator and I have total trust and faith in his ability. We have this great unspoken communication between us two. I can point to a rock, give it a tap or a flick, and he knows exactly what to do. Every now and again, I'm going to give him some guidance, but when I'm back down in the field, I'm going to be pointing, I'm going to be flicking, and he's going to do the job at hand. He can read my mind. It's a great way to operate, to know what each other's thinking. It's absolutely awesome.
Well, this old Traxcavator is part of the family. It was handed down to me from my old man. He had it up in this country about 45 years ago and it's still going strong. And I love this bit of gear and it does practically everything for us. It does the digging, it does the pushing, it does the ripping, it does the loading, it does the towing and just about everything else we can ask of it. Just an awesome piece of gear and it's definitely getting better with age. We're hoping to find some inclusions within the rose quartz. It's actually a really rare occurrence. I haven't seen too much before, but I've got a couple whoppers here in front of me. We're actually starting to expose some good black tourmaline crystals. I gave this rose quartz a little bit of a chip, and what did I find? A great big black tourmaline crystal. It's a good indication that anything can happen while we're up here. So we're always on the lookout. As we're digging through the pits, hopefully we can spot a few more anomalies and we can get some really special specimens just like these.
Welcome to our little oasis in the Outback. We're just in the caravan at the moment. We're having a coffee break, but we actually refer to it as a Smoko. So often over the years I've told people, oh, we're just going to knock off a Smoko, and they wonder, oh, what, you smoke? What's all this Smoko business about? But it's basically just a break. We just come in, have something to eat if we're hungry, coffee, tea, whatever we want. And just get time to just relax, ponder what we've just done and strategize and work out what we're going to do for the next dig.
So you see the quartz up there on that hill? We're actually working the test trench over there, digging a little costine and trying to work out where the colour was going in the rose quartz. And we were getting some good signs. We were actually getting some material out that we were happy with, but we were hoping for something a bit better. The cost of the excavator, Mick sitting on there chewing away with some fuel, it was getting really expensive. We weren't getting that material out that we needed to pay for it, so we were getting worried we weren't going to make anything out of it. We decided before knock-off yesterday that we're going to head over to the other side of the lease. There's actually a quartz blowout that runs through the river system here and actually is on the other side of the hill. We thought we'd take a bit of a gamble before we were heading back to camp. Let's just drop the bucket in and do a little bit of braking on this quartz blowout. All of a sudden, we see this colour. I'm looking at it now and I'm thinking we might actually make something out of this. So you may see some lines within the material. These are actually what we call phantoms. They're part of the crystal structure as the quartz is being formed. So these phantoms actually don't detract from the value of this rose quartz at all. It actually adds something to it. You start to add the transparency, the colour, those lines, that character, you end up with a really unique product. Something that's going to be really sought after. And I'm really excited because what I'm actually seeing here is some of the best rose quartz ever found here in the Australian outback. Wow, beautiful stuff. We were talking about different quartz that we're finding here, and we've just got another one, a bit of a surprise. We've actually hit a little layer of smoky quartz. Pretty impressive stuff. We're getting lots of clarity, but a really nice dark smoky colour. You can see I've got a little piece here, and it's actually got a bit of citrine running through there as well. It looks pretty amazing. This place just keeps giving, and I think we're really onto the right spot now. So we're going to go this afternoon and have a little bit more of a dig and see if we can find some of this smoky as well. It's pretty impressive stuff. I've been putting a little bit of water on some of the pieces, and they're pretty amazing looking stuff.
So accidents are bound to happen when we're working with these heavy and sharp rocks. If you're a little bit squeamish and don't like the sight of blood, you might want to skip over the next part.
I had a bit of a boo-boo. Just a bit of rose quartz shard came up when I was putting the rough in the bucket, and I'm pretty aware of how sharp it is, but occasionally I slip up or the rock decides to jump a different direction, and it's just given me a little love tap and slice into the bicep. It's not too bad. It's a little bit deeper than I like, but I'm just going to clean it up quickly, put a band-aid on it, bit of tape again, get going, and then I'll clean it later when we get back into camp, and we should be good to go again tomorrow. So I'm all taped up now. I think it's going to heal pretty good. Use the old dad for now, and we'll clean it up a bit later in the camp. So I'm going to head out. The sun's almost down, but I got one more bucket in me, so I'm going to go smash it out now. We've got our last biggest obstacle for the hunt for the rose quartz. We've done our mining, we've got our rock ready to pick up. But the real big obstacle that was in front of us the whole time, and we were talking about it before, was that dry riverbed. We've got to get across to the other side. I've got a truck that won't quite drive through it. So I've got a Traxcavator here, and I've hooked a tow strap up. We're going to drive the truck and the Traxcavator in tandem, and we're going to pull it across the sand. As long as we can get to the other side, we've got no worries. We can get out to the mine, load up, and get the hell out of here.
So this is the bit that makes me nervous. I'm driving the old Mack across the dry riverbed, and I got Mick in front of the Traxcavator with a tow strap on. He's there as a backup, just in case I start to bind up. It's really important that I keep the traction and keep the truck rolling here, and I've actually got to do the opposite to what my brain tells me to do if I start to bog in. Because all I want to do is hit the gas, but I've actually got to back off the accelerator. I've almost got to let the old Mack stall out. That way the Traxcavator can do its thing, give me a little tug, and I can sit back on top of the sand and keep driving. It's a really great partnership between Mick and I. Over the years we've honed this skill, and it's really showing here. We're going to get across the river and get into that rose quartz mine.
So that worked out pretty well in the end. We got across the river okay. I did get a bit nervous there. I've got the sweat coming out of the palms. We really didn't want to get stuck, especially in this heat. The Traxcavator did an awesome job. Mick dragged me along really well. We timed it perfectly. The truck started to lose its traction, and that strap just gave it a little bit of tautness, and it just pulled it up, sat the truck on top of the sand, and then we managed to get through. Now we've got to get back out to the mine. We've got to load up and do it all again once we get back. What a day. Oh, it's been a hell of a journey, this hunt for the rose quartz. Most of our expeditions are pretty epic, but This one's had a lot more. We've had the heat, the flies, the injuries, and it was that unknown. I mean, it was probably 10 years since we were last up here, and when Mick and I decided to come up and get the excavator together and shell out all this extra dollars to have a bit of a play and hopefully thinking that we might find something, but you just never know. That day one where we first sunk that test trench, we weren't really happy with what we were seeing. We had a feeling there was going to be something special on this lease and it just wasn't giving it to us. So Mick and I decided to flip it on its head. We went completely on the opposite side of the deposit and we had a bit of a scratch on the next quartz blowout. And we started to see some colour then. That gut feeling I had from the start, it was there. We were getting the cherry colour. It was awesome to see. But what really surprised me is we actually started to hit a few interesting things. Found a few Tourmaline in Rose Quartz specimens, something I hadn't seen before. Pretty rare, and they're probably going to end up in my collection, I think. But what really threw me was the Smoky quartz. Could you believe it? Laying next to the pink? I did not expect that at all. I mean, we were hunting for Rose Quartz. What's that doing there? It's pretty awesome stuff. We've got lots of dark colour, lots of transparency. They're going to polish up really nicely. I'm sure a lot of our customers are going to love it. And that brings me back to our whole expedition here. It's been a really successful trip. We found some Smoky, some individual specimens, but we found that cherry colour we were originally hoping to get. And I think we might be able to pay some bills, eat some steak, pay for that hired excavator, and I think we might even be able to bring the crew along, go on another expedition and share it with you.